Here is a Marantz model 1040M amplifier. This was a dump find a while ago, but it wasn't the usual one, as I did not pull this out of the e-waste bin. I pulled it out of somebody's car, so thanks to that random person for letting me have it. Let's take a closer look along the front of the amplifier. This labeling is kind of hard to read. I hope you can make out everything okay. This is kind of a basic amplifier. I'd guess this is from the early to mid 1980s. As we take a look inside, you can definitely tell Marantz had already started doing some serious cost cutting. Two positive things worth mentioning. We do have a discrete transistor output stage. So it's not your typical early 80s STK type hybrid amplifier. And the entire circuit was built using Nippon Chemicon electrolytic capacitors. But then there is this. This transformer is entirely too small. And you can tell you could easily fit a bigger one into here. So I'm wondering, either they designed this amplifier and then realized they had gone over budget, and their way of fixing that was to just swap in a smaller transformer, or the bigger transformer was reserved for the next model up. But this transformer is not happy. You run this amplifier for a few hours at moderate volume, and it gets really hot. Now technically this amplifier does work. It will need some contact cleaner, which has to be expected. But then there are some problems in the design of this, I should say. The first problem is at the power input. Now this very unsafe contraption right here, that's not the problem, that's something I did. No, the problem is this power connector. This is, I think it's the same power connector that's also found on TIAC reel-to-reels, and I don't have any cables for this. So I want to replace it, and thankfully I found this IEC socket, which seems to have the same, I guess you could say, footprint as this one. So I'm going to try to put this one in there so that I can use just a standard IEC cable to power this amplifier. The original mains jack is out, but unfortunately the new jack did not fit, so just had a fairly long session with the Dremel tool. You can tell I had to remove quite a bit of material, but now the new jack does fit, and best of all, the original screw holes should still fit the new jack. The new IEC socket is in place, and aside from being the wrong color, I'd say this does look as if it was original. Let's take a look at how it's wired up. Of course, we have replaced a non-grounded connector with a grounded connector. So I have installed this additional wire and connected that to the chassis. So the amplifier is now grounded. Now that I can properly supply this amplifier with power, let's move on to the next problem. Can you tell whether or not this amplifier is turned on right now? Difficult, isn't it? If I turn off the lights in the room, you can see there is a very, very dim light bulb lighting up those output power meters. So yes, the amplifier is on, but you can't really see it. That I want to change. I want to upgrade the dial lights in here to LED, just like I did on the matching tuner. Link to that video is in the description. The other problem I very annoyingly just created myself, It seems like the analog power meters didn't like the vibration coming from the Dremel session. If I bring the camera in closer, you can see the 0 point on the left meter has shifted. The right meter is even worse. It now likes to get stuck somewhere in the middle of its travel. So I gotta see what's up with that. Okay, I hope I have the meters fixed now. That was quite a disaster. Now, I initially thought the zero adjust was going to be this tiny little screw right there. Well, it turns out it's not. If you tighten it down, the moving coil is no longer able to move and the meter is stuck. And you've guessed it, if you turn it the other way around and you turn it too far, the moving coil is just going to fall out. And that's what happened. And that was not fun to repair. The thing that I forgot is typically the zero adjust in these meters is some kind of a lever. And in these particular meters, this lever is accessible through a hole in the back. You can see it right down in there and there as well. Now these mechanisms, these levers are in there really stiff. They won't move easily, so I have no idea how the vibration from the Dremel tool changed the adjustment. But anyway, the right meter seems to have fixed itself. I had this amplifier running for well over an hour playing music. Both meters worked, so I'm going to call them good. Never touch a running system. Let's now move on to the next chapter in this video, the LED modification. So, I'm going to remove this very dim little light bulb. I'm going to bend this bracket out of the way so that I can then use double-sided tape to install this fuse holder. And this is a cutout from a circuit board. I'm going to stick that on top of these meters, like so. I have already checked, and this should clear the tone control board right there. So there shouldn't be any problems. Also, the solder joints should not be able to touch anything. So I can then put in one of these. This is an 8-volt LED fuse lamp for classic stereo receivers. Making progress. I have the new light connected. Does it work? Yes, it does. Everything has been put back together. How does it look? Very nice. Here is the back of the amplifier. Not a lot going on around here. The voltage selector is still set for 220 volts because the only other option is 110 volts. And as we look around here, as you can see, I have some cleaning up to do. The previous owners clearly didn't know a thing about hi-fi equipment, so they just numbered all the connectors, and unfortunately they use these really cheap paper labels. If I try to rip this off, as you can see, most of it just stays in place. Now, I've recently found something that works really well for removing these labels, WD-40. So I'm going to soak these labels into WD-40, not using the spray can, that would cause a mess. I'm going to use a little paintbrush, and we'll see how this turns out. And this is what remains after using just WD-40 and a razor blade. Not much, bit of glue, and of course the WD-40. And here is the completed back panel. And here it is, the completed Marantz Model 1040M amplifier. All nicely cleaned up, put back together, and ready to go. Well, that loudness might be a little too much. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching.